Welcome to the Fostering Change Podcast, Season 3. I'm Rob Scheer, the founder of Comfort Cases and your host. Together, we have made such a difference in the world. We've met with leaders and change makers in the foster care system. We've met with charities and philanthropists, celebrities, authors, and so much more. We'll continue to bring you guests who will share how together as a community we can bring about change. Welcome once again to Fostering Change. You know, it's hard to believe that half of the year is over and we are absolutely humbled and grateful for all that we have when it comes to fostering change and when it comes to comfort cases. You know, I've spent the last 6 months talking to some amazing people. And once again, I am so happy to have this next guest. This next guest, who I do consider my friend, which is Inc.York Bradshaw. York is actually the founder of what they call the Urban Hunger Project. Now, before I bring York on, I want to say a couple of things when it comes to talking about the word hunger. You know, for me, I have food insecurities, and I think it's because of what I went through as a child. And I think that we have more food insecurities within our country and within our world than we have ever experienced in our lifetime. And that's why I'm so excited to have York on, because we're going to talk about that. And there's some stories that I'm going to repeat that I actually wrote about in my book, but some things that some of you don't know. So York, welcome to Fostering Change.
Thanks so much, Rob. Delighted to be here.
You know, York, I was reading your bio, and I've known you for a while now, but the one thing I did not know is that you actually were a professor of sociology.
I was. My background is really the academic world. So I was professor of sociology, and then I went into academic administration and was the dean of arts and sciences at a couple of places. So my background is very much academia.
That is unbelievable. So, you know, where I think that each and every one of us have a calling, and you know, and when it comes to you know, putting people before yourself, and that's exactly what you've done. I mean, I've known about you. I know about, you know, so many things that you have helped, and you know, that comes from something. Where did that start from?
You know, I think for me, it started early. I had parents that really talked a lot about helping others, and I was exposed to really good role models early on. And I think I've just been really fortunate to be connected with a lot of people, and then to have a career where I could really, you know, study the human condition and teach and work with people, do research different places. And then finally, at some point, say, you know, I really want to go out and take this and try to make some changes in the world.
Yeah, change is exactly what we need, my friend. It's exactly what we need. So, right, I want to jump right into it about the Urban Hunger Project. Now, you actually are feeding people who are experiencing homelessness within one of the most impoverished cities that we have in our country, which is Baltimore City. I will tell you that I have a connection with Baltimore City because of my fifth son. You know, he actually is from Baltimore, and I am very, very, experienced when it comes to what we see within Baltimore City. One of the things that really took me back a little bit is that, you know, I partnered up with you. You were at an event where we were actually giving sandwiches, and I was pretty absolutely shocked at the number of people that were experiencing homelessness. Can you let our viewers and listeners know exactly what Baltimore City is like when it comes to that?
Sure, Rob. It's, you know, Baltimore City, as you said, is one of our most challenged cities in terms of homelessness and hunger. I think officially they say there are 2,200 homeless people in Baltimore, but we know that's a real underestimate. And probably at least 25% of the population has some type of food insecurity. That's 150,000 people, if you think about it. Every night, 150,000 people who may not have eaten or certainly haven't eaten very much over the last few days. Each weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, we serve hot meals in, as you said, one of the most challenged areas of the city. And we're just really saddened and kind of blown away by the number of people who come through our line who say, you know, I haven't eaten for 2 or 3 days. I've eaten nothing. And you can tell. I mean, we serve them hot food. We take great pride in the type of food we serve. And before they can even move out of the line, they're just diving in eating because they're really so hungry. And we see people of all ages, from children on up into their 80s. We see people coming through on crutches and wheelchairs. And so this is really a huge problem, not just in Uganda or Zambia, but right here in Baltimore.
Yeah, that's the thing that's a little bit shocking for people is
Mhm.
that, I do expect to hear about this in other countries, but to hear about this in the United States of America, where we spend billions and
Mhm.
billions of dollars on just things that are just not needed. The fact that we cannot feed our people is just, it blows my mind. York, I have to tell you, one of the things when the pandemic hit, I truly believe that this brought more light to everything than we've ever seen before. And again, I understand experiencing homelessness. I was a kid who was homeless. I
Mhm.
understand what it means to not have a meal. I know what it was like to go to the McDonald's and steal ketchup packages,
Mhm.
and I would actually eat those ketchup packages because that's all I was going to have. I understand that. But when it came to COVID, and really shining light upon this, my family in the beginning of COVID, as things were moving, through, and we realized we weren't coming out of this, March, April, May, my first reaction was, what can I do? How can I do something? What can I do? How can I help somebody? And so that was like the very first thing that I actually thought about. And so what we did was my family said, let's put some sandwiches together. Let's make some sandwiches. Never did I realize that we made hundreds of sandwiches in our kitchen. But I watched my children as they did that, York, and realizing that, food insecurity is real. What do you think the percentage of people throughout our country are experiencing that?
I think it's the same thing. I think, Baltimore is not unusual in terms of what's going on. So I think across the country, you'll see, 20 to 25% of the population is food insecure. And as you indicated, a lot of those are children. So I think this is really, it's really a food emergency in many ways. And the pandemic has worsened it. The current recession has worsened it. And we really see people just really living on the margins. And I think that's what's hard for people to realize. Again, unless you're experiencing it yourself, and more people are, and that's the sad thing. But again, really a call to action, as you say, and really a chance for people, like your family. And I saw your family making all those sandwiches, the photos, and everything. And it's really a chance for people to get out and to get involved and to do something for some organization or with some organization, to really make a difference in the area of food.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, by the way, York. I think that, as a community, somewhere along the way, we have forgotten what communities were built for, and they were to take care of each other, and I truly believe that each and every one of us, we have a story and things impact us because of other stories we hear. And one of the reasons that I really wanted to make sure that you were on our program is, as I said, in my house, we call it the hamburger helper rule. And my husband knows we don't need hamburger helper. But for me, I have to have a certain number of boxes within my cabinet because the fear of a bare cabinet is a fear that my stomach will be bare. And I remember, I still, at 55, I still remember what that felt like to be hungry, and I'm not talking, and by the way, everybody, I know you're listening and you're thinking, well, I was hungry today. Yeah, I'm hungry today too, by the way. I'm not talking that kind of hunger. I'm talking about the hunger that fills within your gut like you have never felt before. Where at times it's like it's literally you can't even be mobile when it comes to that. And they say you feed the stomach, it feeds the brain. That is a true thing. I mean, you're my professor. Don't you agree with that?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, hunger impacts every part of us. I mean, how can a child go to school hungry and learn? How can they pay attention? how can they be well behaved? I mean, all of us, if we start to get just a little bit hungry, as you noticed, our behavior begins to change, right? But just imagine day after day, feeling that way. And yeah, it's totally debilitating.
I was kind of shocked when, I love the fact that when COVID was happening, we opened up our lunchrooms for all children to receive free lunches, free breakfast. And by the way, we were able to do that. And we were able to budget that in, as people always, it's all about the budget that in. And, I truly think that it gave children an opportunity to learn like they've never learned before. And again, I understand the critics that are going to say, well, wait a minute, my child was learning through Zoom for a year. So were my 5 children. But I do know that when they were back in person, and, my children are fortunate enough that they didn't have to worry about that. But I guarantee you that there were children in the lines with my children who that was their one opportunity for a meal. Literally their one opportunity for a meal. And I think that we as humans, if we can't get anything right, at least we can let's feed our children better than we do today, better than we do today. York, I want to know, what does the Urban, Hunger Project do in light of these concerns that we're sitting here talking about?
Right. Yeah, Rob, what we try to do is really 3 things. One is we try to provide hot meals to people on the street in challenging neighborhoods. We also take food out into homeless encampments. There are more and more tents and homeless, kind of tented cities growing in Baltimore. We take food there as well. We also deliver food in neighborhoods that are very poor, to families, to housing communities. Both non-perishable food and hot food as much as we can as well. The third thing we try to do is to really try to connect people up with organizations and agencies that can help them. We see a lot of people that come through our line that have substance use issues, that have mental health challenges, and we like to feed them, but we would really like to do something more. So we try to connect them as much as we can with organizations and agencies, which can help them. And one of the things that makes me the most happy is whenever we connect someone with, say, a substance use center, and they come back a month or 6 weeks later and say, do you remember me? They'll often say, do you remember me? And usually I will. And then they'll start telling their story, remember whenever you sent me there or took me there, and I'm okay now. And we even had one young woman that came through, and so I said, well, no, I'm so happy. This has made my day, my week. And by the way, would you like some food? Because she used to come through and get food. And she looked at me and said, no, I'm good. So I thought, wow, that's really cool, huh?
Wow, how rewarding. You want to talk about,
Yeah.
I say all the time, it's going to make your heart smile. That truly makes your heart smile.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you talk about that, there's so many more services that people need who are experiencing homelessness that actually got them to that point. And I think that there are more people that are one paycheck away from standing in that line, where you're serving these meals. One of the things that I have a quick question. Where do you actually cook these meals at?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a really large and dedicated crew that cooks food for us out on Wednesday night and Saturday morning and Sunday morning very early out in Hanover. It's at St. Lawrence Martyr Catholic Church out in Hanover, Maryland. And they do a fabulous job, cooking for us. And then that's supplemented also by just volunteers who cook, some at home, again, some that come in at other times. So we have a lot of food that's given to us along the way.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Listen, everybody, we're going to take a quick break here, but I really want you to go to urbanhungerproject.org. The fact that I say this to you all the time. Yes, my friend York is helping those who are experiencing homelessness in Baltimore City. But I repeat, your community is not your zip code. It's not. It's your human race. So what affects people in Baltimore City, I'm telling you right now, that it's affecting your town as well. We'll be right back. This episode of Fostering Change is sponsored by Comfort Cases, a national nonprofit that inspires our communities to bring hope and dignity to our youth that are in foster care. For just $10 a month, you can support the Comfort Cases mission and help us eliminate trash bags for kids who are entering foster care. For every $10 that you give, Comfort Cases will give a Comfort XL to a child entering the system. Be part of the change. Visit comfortcases.org. We all know that, going over Zoom, there's going to be glitches. So during the first half, you saw my screen go out a little bit, and I do apologize, and hopefully will not happen as we wind up fostering change. Listen, York, one of the things I have to tell you, I love what you do. Here you are, a professor who could have easily, taken retirement if you wanted to do whatever, but instead you want to embrace your community and really build it. I love the fact that you truly get your community involved, and that's so, so important. I think that it's so important that we educate our community about what's going on, and then we give them the tools to help change it. And that's what you've done with the Urban Hunger Project. So I have to ask you, how do you get your funding?
That's a good question. We get our funding through private donations, people of all walks of life. And actually, I have a really cool story to tell you about our latest donation. So we had, I got a email from the president of an elementary school band boosters program. And I know her, and she said, by the way, we had a big fundraiser this year. These are elementary school music students, and they raised about $2,000, and they voted to give one half to the music program and then one half to a charity. So they researched what charity to give it to, and they ended up giving it to Urban Hunger Project. So she said, I have a check for close to $1,000 for you. These are elementary school children that research this. And they've probably never been to the areas that we serve, and there they are donating money to us. So we're eternally grateful to all the people that do donate. We're 100% donation based. We're a volunteer organization, so we always appreciate donations and support of any kind from people.
I love that. And I do believe that kids helping kids is how the world is going to change. And we know that there are a lot of children that are standing in that line that you have been feeding. So you've served more than over 100,000 people in Baltimore. 100,000 people. When did you start this project?
We started during the pandemic. We started 18 months or so ago. I was part of a group that was already feeding people. But it started to get to be so big during the pandemic because so few organizations were out there because they were being told to shut down. So as a lot of groups were shutting down, we decided to start. Probably not the best business model, but it worked for us. And so we really started during the pandemic, first of all, serving bag lunches, and then going to hot lunches. And I have to say, Baltimore in the early stages of the pandemic was almost like a ghost town, except for the homeless population. We would drive down, and it was very easy to find homeless people because who else was in downtown Baltimore at the time that everyone was sheltering? So we started then, and we're very grateful that we've been able to continue and to grow beyond that. So yeah, we're about 18 months old.
That's amazing. That's amazing. But it's so sad that you've had to feed over 100,000 people and have to feed them on donations that, again, we as a country should be taking care of each and every one of the people who need us. And these people truly do need us. That was one of the things you talked about, the ghost town. That was one of the things that my kids talked about as we were driving home and reflecting on the day that we spent was, we knew it was a pandemic. I will tell you, we didn't realize that it was as big as it had become, but we were, kind of shocked that, here we were masked up, gloved up, staying the 6 feet distancing. And here you had a population of people that probably really, a lot of them weren't aware how and intense was going on within our country and within our world at that time. Um, you know, I feel like these are a group of humans that we just feel like we can forget, and that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, it's totally true. I mean, early on, when is just reflecting on what you were saying, when we would go down, I mean, I'm really not exaggerating at all. We would pass corners and be out of food and be sad, and we'd literally see grown men, standing on the corner crying because they were just so hungry. And signs out there where, a woman had a sign and she said, "I'm hungry, for real." And out just stopping the few cars that were coming by, because a lot of the shelters and places like that were closed down, or at least severely reduced in terms of their capacity. So yeah, I've seen a lot of poverty in Africa and other places, and I was thinking no place was as bad as Baltimore during those days. And I still see that every week. And we try to say to people, to our volunteers, remember, everyone coming through is a person, no matter, what their situation is, no matter how, high they might look on drugs or whatever. They're all people, they all have souls, and we need to take care of them the best that we can. We can't save everyone, we know that. We're not trying to say that we do, but we can at least provide them with some food and some encouragement, and hope that we can make some difference in their lives as they go forward.
York, you said it. You absolutely said it. Each and every one of them have a soul. And each and every one of them is a person. And that to me is so, so important that we realize, through this season, we've had these amazing people on, like my friend York, talking about how we can truly impact our community. How can we make a difference? Even this small little time that we're together. And I am so absolutely humbled that people tune in, they listen to our podcast, they really take some valuable information away. And I hope that what people take away today is exactly what York just said. Exactly what York just said. No matter what someone is experiencing, no matter what you think about when you pull up to that stoplight and you try not to make eye contact, that's a person. That's a person. And I say this to my kids, my husband and I preach this over and over again. Maybe you're not like the Scheers and you carry a snack bag in your car so you can hand it to somebody who's standing at the corner. I don't have cash. I don't carry cash on me. So I don't have money to give someone. But what we all have is the ability to give respect. To give respect, York. And to me, I think that's about eye contact. I think that first we have to take the barriers down, that these are bad people, that they put themselves in this situation, and understand, as you said, my friend, they are people. They are people. York, is there anything you'd like for our listeners to hear before we sign off?
Well, first of all, Rob, I really appreciate you having me on, and you have a wonderful organization, and I always enjoy talking with you. I think one thing that I'd like to say is that people who volunteer and people who give back, they also get a lot out of this experience. Sometimes people will say to volunteers, "Oh, you're doing so much to help people." And I say, think about it the other way too. When volunteers go down, they see a whole nother way of life. They learn about a whole nother, group of people that they've never talked to. And they realize, wow, these really are people. They're really not that different than you and I. In fact, they're not different in many ways. And so I really encourage people to think about volunteering and realizing how much they're going to get out of it, as well as giving back to the community.
Yeah. York, I couldn't have said it better. I mean, I say it all the time. Not everybody has money to donate to organizations. And by the way, you got a couple bucks in your pocket, go to the urbanhungerproject.org and donate. Let me tell you, it truly would help out. It's going to a good cause. 100% of this is going to the mission, a volunteer ran organization. We need to be supporting it. But I will say to you, not everybody has money. But the one thing that each and every one of us have, the most valuable thing that each and every one of us have, no matter what, we all have time. We have time. And with that time, you take it and invest it. And what do you invest it in? The thing that will grow your future tomorrow, your community. It's simple as that. Invest it into your community, and I promise you, you will reap the benefits tomorrow. Listen, everyone, this is another exciting episode of Fostering Change. I'm so excited for my friend York to be a part of this episode. And again, you can go to the urbanhungerproject.org and get involved. And if you're not able to do it, get involved in your community. Wherever you are living, get involved, because the person you help today could actually be the person you're standing next to tomorrow. Have a great day. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for listening or watching the latest episode of Fostering Change. All of us on our team hope that you've learned something new today and have been inspired to be a good human. Now, just a reminder that you can always find Fostering Change on your favorite channels on Google, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and others, including, of course, comfortcases.org. I want to give a big thank you to all of you for joining us each and every week. And a reminder that if you have a suggestion for a guest, or maybe you might have a question about today's podcast, or are interested in becoming a sponsor of Fostering Change, please don't hesitate to email me personally at fosteringchange@comfortcases.org. Now, that's it for now. Thanks again, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Take care.